Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of y'all and peace out to the rest of you. Hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. And once again, I really got to repeat a message I've already explained before. This is why I tell you all to hit the share button. And when I say hit the share button, telling someone else is fine. The word of mouth is fine. Whatever you think. If they need to hear one of these uploads of mine, or if they're the type of person who doesn't really give a guck much about what a stranger says, but then they would trust you, then you need to just repeat the message to them. Either one is the same as hitting the share button. And this is important. Gentlemen, CJNBM recorded and uploaded why, or live streamed, why do men have such a problem with game? Sir, let me explain this to you, CJNBM. Again, men have issues with game, not because we hate the idea of being charming and attractive to women, sir. Men in their right mind don't have issues with that. The issues that we have with game, sir, are number one, women aren't really honest about what they're attracted to and what they're going to choose, whom they're going to choose. They lie, sir. And that lying is a part of their game. Game doesn't even rest with men to begin with. We're trying to figure it out. We're sick and tired of trying to figure out something they've already mastered, and then about which they turn and lie to us to keep us on our toes. The fact that we're up here trying to talk about game and not requiring honest game of them is in fact game. It's due to their game. In other words, women already got game and they're misusing it and abusing it. Men are trying to figure it out, largely because of their game. Game is over mystified, lied about, sir. You're right that we shouldn't overcomplicate it, but the real answer to it is what I just told you. It's not, you even said, if you don't answer this question, you don't have game. Aside from what you have and what you do, why should she mess with you? Well, the answer to that is because of who you are. But most of their assessment of who you are is based on what you have and what you do. Matter of fact, they'll skip who you are for things like what you have and what you look like. That's really what they're doing. That's how they're assessing, how they're judging, and they're lying and saying that they don't look at stuff like that because they're not that shallow. No, you and I know now they are that shallow. You see, sir, if you put on your best and you go somewhere where there ain't gonna be nothing but black men and black women, you're never going to be able to get approached. And we're talking about women who call themselves strong and independent. What do we see that they don't do? They don't approach men. They don't even approach attractive men by their own standards. They approach men that are celebrities that are already being approached by other women. Yeah, then they'll approach them. What does this tell you? As you said, it's competitive, right? Yeah, but they're saying they refuse to compete. They insist on being competed for, and then they refuse to compete. But then let's look at what it is. Let's look at why we're even having this discussion. Women aren't discussing how to get men. They're discussing how to get rare men. They're always discussing how to get some abundance of something that God did not make abundant anyway. Whether it's jewelry or wealthy men that can afford a lot of jewelry. This is what they're always talking about. It's always that which is rare. How do they get it in some kind of abundance? They will ignore the fact that God made something rare. This is why I look at them at times like they're insane. It's because of stuff like that. Why would they sit up and focus on what's not even abundant in the first place, and then insist on that to be with someone? And then here, actually, there are many men who are simply going to behave. Again and again, they're simply going to behave as best as what's going to make relationships work with women that are actually compatible and attractive. You see, frankly, sir, game is not the understanding that men of other stable cultures have of what it takes for women to like them. A lot of times they may not even have a word for it because it's really up to the ladies. Game is something we're looking at trying to figure out what it even is, let alone how to have plenty of it so that multiple women will want us. Because we already know that dealing with that Western woman, either many of them want you or none of them do, because there's no in between. Because in reality, they've sat back and said, we're not even willing to decide on men as individual women. We're not even willing to make these choices. Girls, should I be with him or not? See, what we're facing is a jungle, sir. Like I said, it's a damn war. And you're sitting up telling men how to appease the women that are at war with us by having game. There's no amount of game that's going to get them to just let you run roughshod over them. No amount. If you get her pregnant and she thinks she can get something out of you, like you're not in prison or in and out of prison, or you're not on the lam from the law, something like that. If that's the case, then she's going to try to take you in for child support. Ain't no amount of game that's going to get them to let you off the hook for that. You pretty much have to become a turnip from whom she cannot get blood. That's the end of it. That's how they view this. And that's how they're always going to view us until the day they realize that we, being sentient beings as we are and being accountable, since you say we are just not going to give them a chance anymore. It's as I've said before, the only things that we've been wrong for doing, well, it's been for making it too easy. There's nothing else you can hold men accountable for, especially black men in the West. Western men in general, for that matter. The only things we've done wrong are sit up and make it too easy for them, which is why pretty much we've let them have all the game. They done mastered game, and you want to sit up and tell us how to master game to convince a heterosexual woman to pick a man? To pick a man that's already worked on himself and the things that she says she wants? All they're going to do is move the goalposts, bro. We sit up here and master some sort of game that actually works on them. It wouldn't work. They would change so that game wouldn't work. That's what they keep on doing. All they're doing is eliminating. And until the day that men learn to do what I said in my last uploading, which I addressed you, is leave them be, and rather either replace them with someone else or learn to live single and without them. As unnatural as it is, they've made it a necessity because nothing else is going to allow us to have peace of mind and any other sort of well-being in life. They pretty much taken sexual well-being for men, and they've said, if you're going to have that, then you're not going to have any other form of well-being in life. You will not have any other peace of mind if you deal with us and you get sexually, and even if we don't sexually satisfy you because we refuse to. That's what they've done. So they force men to have to either replace them or learn to live single until we can replace them, because they ain't going to change. They are ucked fup. End of story. The ones of them that are not, and they do exist, well, hell, they catch hell. They really catch it. They get called all kinds of pick-meishes because of the gender war they're not waging against men. That's why. And the funny thing is, even when they've done this, just about every last one of these ladies that is now calling women to account, almost every last one has gone through a phase in which they thought it was okay to run the exact same game on men they don't even want you trying to run on them. Look at Melanie King. Now, as far as her subscriber base goes, that comes from a previous channel she had. I can understand why she has that. She didn't just start a few weeks ago, and now she's up at 11,000. It's not like that. However, The point is, even she said to O'Shea, she used to have an attitude. Now let's stop and think about what that means. She was younger. That means she was nicer looking then than what she is now. She had more options. She had a failed marriage, and she even admitted she has a mouth on her. And her father, she has, by her own admission, her father was a good provider and did not fill her head with fantasies up. So that means she got all that negativity, and I'm saying it just like that. She got that from the society, from the women around her, while having a good dad. See, that's the other thing we've been doing that's wrong. Part of us making it too easy on them is not just as men trying to get with them, it's also as their fathers. Because we love them and we want to protect them, we turn around and, we fill their head up, or we let them fill their heads up with nonsense about what they're entitled to and what they're owed and what they never owe any man, no matter what, and what no man ever deserves from them. Stop and think about that. Now, from my understanding, you're a father, and I'm not sure if you're a father of a daughter or a son, but you speak as though you were a father of a daughter. So I'm going to tell you as the father of 2 daughters and a son who loves his daughters, whose heart aches at having to live away from them, who loves his son, and whose heart aches at having to live away from him. I'm going to tell you as the father of them, sir, you must tell your daughters some tough truths, just like you got to tell your son. If you got to prepare your son by telling him things that are true, even though they're not pleasant, you got to do the same for your daughters. You're going to have to let your daughters know, look, you may be special to me and to your mother, to your siblings. But to the men out there, what you're going to face, you're going to find is that the men who you really love looking at, who you love to look at every morning when you wake up, those men are going to have the least reason to look at you and feel the same way. And it's not going to be because you're ugly. It's going to be because they're just spoiled for choice, just like you would be. And you're going to have to actually be worth keeping for those kinds of men that you'd want to stay with. You don't have to tell men it's a competition. That's one of the first things we learn when we're young. We just don't learn how to compete because the ladies are lying about it. We know it's a competition, but how do you compete? Well, we don't know that in large numbers because they're not telling the truth about that. That's their game, sir. Jessica X spilled the beans on that. Melanie King spilling the beans on it. And even I just got through telling you what she confessed in case you missed that interview with O'Shea. And you got other ladies, and they're called pick-meishes because of what they say. Red Femme Diaries, she done spilled the beans, but she done already set up and told us. She's a born-again Christian, and I'm a practicing Muslim, so a serious Muslim. So, if I'm sitting up telling you that she's being honest about something, it's not because of some sort of bias. Now, I could tell you the same about Kendra D as well, Crimson Cure, but somebody might say, well, you just looking out for her because you're both Muslim and you're both black. Okay, so, and I do endorse, I do find her to be honest. Although I disagree with what she's saying about how we need to work on the black family. No. The women need to be chasing the black men down and then end the story because black men, generally speaking, have been loyal. Generally. Now, you may have a few of them that all these women want, and they may go and dip and dabble with the snow bunnies. And that might be the case, but most normal black men have actually been quite race loyal to black women, and it has not paid off. What do they get told? Same thing my wife told me yesterday when we were packing up to leave and come back here to where we live and work. Said to me, Black, you got to do one of the mentoring things for the youth. She's from Philly. Muslim sister. Wears the niqab too. She gonna sit up and tell me this. And I was like, no, we don't. I don't need to do this because they're not mine. And I said to her, in order to do something like that and really help the men, I have to tell them certain things that their mothers are not going to like me saying to them. She didn't have an answer for that because she knew that was true. Matter of fact, she said, like what? And I was about to say, like how their mothers chose their fathers, and we got interrupted. That's what has to happen. A few minutes before that, she had sat up and said to my wife, because we were waiting in the lobby for some other colleagues who were staying at another hotel to come join us. And I looked at her, my wife's friend, and I said, is there anything that you want to take out of this bag before I put it into the trunk? She was like, well, they're going to be here. We're going to put everything. I said to her, I can put the bag in the trunk now, though, and get that out the way. It's actually easier for me. And then she looked at my wife and said, I'm going to get one of them. It took me a while to realize she meant me, like she going to get one of me. It took me a while to realize that that's what she was talking about. When I realized it, I said, well, ma'am, there are very few people with this kind of training anymore. Now, this is because I'm putting a bag in a trunk. That's not all. The point I'm making is that she's sitting up saying to my wife's face, in a nutshell, that my wife made a smart choice. Now, this is the same one who told another African-American teacher a long time ago that black mind is, in fact, too light-skinned to be trying to date or marry black women. Now I'm sitting up here married to her black friend from East Africa. And she's forgotten what she said before. Doesn't know that I know she actually used to be married to an outright Caucasian either. She doesn't know that I know that. And she's telling my wife in a nutshell, what I just told you. Nobody ever said that I have a lot of game. Now, the women have complimented me about other things before. They've actually done some unscrupulous things trying to keep me when it wasn't going to work out. But they never sat up and said that I had a lot of game as they understand game in African American culture. Now, this is me talking. Just a regular run-of-the-mill guy who's had all the same troubles other men have had, plus some extra troubles for being racially unrecognizable. And for the negative stereotypes that I don't fit. And now I'm sitting up here watching one slip up and tell my wife in front of me that she's going to look for pretty much me. She doesn't understand. Anyone out there that is similar to me in this regard, especially if he's African American, already knows what the games are. Or he doesn't know what the games are and he's not trying to figure them out anymore. Because why? See, this is what we're dealing with. And you want to sit up and talk about why men have a problem with game. The reason is because game is fluid. They just sit up here and define game as whatever they like. Whatever man they like has game. The same game coming from one man doesn't work coming from another. Trust me, if there was something called solid game, I had to learn it, only to still fail. It doesn't work, sir. The bottom line is that when they have a particular type, that's it. And sisters are very shallow. And the ladies that have been trying to matchmake for them have even said they're too damn shallow. Game, I'm sorry, sir. I can have a good sense of humor. But if I look to them like I'm not packing anything downstairs, and that's what they think when they look at me, it really doesn't matter. I can't have game at that point. And there are many sisters that have a habit of looking at black men and then trying to size us up as though we're naked when they haven't even seen us naked. They do that. That's the truth of the matter. There are women that want to figure out how much you have. And they're going to judge everything based on that in terms of what's in your wallet. And we know sisters, actually, they will demand both. And then even some more. And the point is, when they assume at times that you're missing something, your game doesn't matter. You don't have game. They're trying to figure out why you're trying before you've realized that you're not her type. And so therefore, that's not game either. And if you stop paying them attention altogether, okay, I'm not her type. I'm going to move on. And you move on to another woman. That's bad game. Everything is bad game to them. That's who they are, sir. They're broken, and they're breaking the men. They're breaking the boys that they raise into men. Because if you really want to know what game is, sir, game is not only them teaching their daughters how to get over on men while teaching their sons to be suckers to be gotten over on. Game is the reason why they're doing that. Game is being willing to throw your male relatives under the bus for the benefit of women you've never met and don't know exist. That's game. It's actually cheating, sir, by any standards. They would call it cheating if we were doing that. And so they turn around and they do it to male relatives of their own, including their own sons and grandsons and nephews. They don't call it game. Maybe they don't even consciously think of it as game. But in fact, what it is cheating the game. Just to make sure that we are stupid enough to try to figure out how to have game, try to figure out what the hell it is and how to have more of it, when in fact it's always been in their hands the whole time. Understand, sir, although it should be, couple formation should be about those who are genuinely drawn to each other and find themselves to be compatible forming couples. That's not what it's about, sir. Should be that way, but it ain't. No, couple formation is about them getting over. That's what they've turned it into. That's what they insist on. You just have to be, you have to be perfect, and you can be close enough to it to where they're willing to give you a try for a little while. And then that's not going to last either, because either you're going to grow as attached as they want you to, and then they feel like I've won the game, time to move up to the next level and ditch this dude. Or you're going to be the one to say she's not actually playing, she's not doing very well, she's not performing because she's never had to, and I can see this, so I'm going to move on to the next level. Sir, game is the reason why it is that we don't demand any of them and they demand all of it from us and don't even have a clear definition to tell us what it is. Ask the ladies to sit down and define what game is. Ask them to do it. Watch them start waving their hands around, trying to come up with words and coming up with sounds that don't have a meaning instead of words to describe what the hell game is. They just can't even describe it themselves. And the men who sit up here and promote that men should learn game as women want us to learn something, and these are guys like C Boogie. Well, you should hear how he's being dragged right about now and what the reason is. If you haven't heard already, you probably have. And I haven't even said anything about it. This is my first time mentioning it. I'm simply saying that to say that it's a bad look, really, as a guy to be sitting up here telling men that know what we know about how we need to learn game. That's a bad look. Now, if you want to talk about learning charm and manners, that's fine. But the thing is, that should be understood. That's just understood in most cultures, except, of course, amongst African-American women and other Western black women that are satellite groups. And they're the only ones that don't know about those things. And how do we know? Because they refuse to have them. Oh, they refuse to have charm. And if they learned it, they wouldn't do anything but weaponize that too in order to be more deceptive. And the ones who learned it and didn't weaponize it would be called all kinds of pick-me's and pick-me'shes by other women and probably even beaten up. Because as those good women can see, the bad women already don't have any boundaries. And I don't blame them for feeling fear of these bad women. I still say they need to go ahead and stand up, but I don't blame them for the fear that they feel. And one thing I would say to some, even these good women, one of the things that men of you all like to say is that as long as those bad women don't get too close to you or your children, they're not really a threat to you. No, they are. They are a threat to you. If you're one of the good ones that they call pick-me's or pick-me'shes, and you think that these bad, unscrupulous women are not really a threat to you, understand, no, by being that way and encouraging this in other women, they are a threat to you. It's just a long-term threat. And some of you say, well, I got my own kids to raise. And okay, understand this. If it took for you to have children in order to understand how bad those other women are, then you aren't really a good woman at heart. You've chosen to be one, and I commend you for that. But it means that at your core, you're not really that good. Because at your core, if you're that good, you check them before you have kids. Because in all honesty, they made it more difficult for you to have them. You have them, but they made it difficult for you to have them while you were a good woman. And many of you take that easy way out. You just like them until you become a parent. Even many good ladies don't really become that good until they have sons. That's also a problem. And that's because CJ and BM, they're playing the game that's easier to play. And that game that's easier to play is be a feminist until you have sons and you realize that feminism is a bad deal for your sons and it's not fair. Oh, and by the way, Red Femme Diaries, she's the one that does some of the most confessing. Pink Book Lessons is another. I don't know much about Danica Marie, but I've heard her name. Jessica X, hell, they can't stand her. And Jessica X has given up the game. She has set up and said that women will teach their daughters how to play men. And then they won't teach their sons what the games are. And the husbands don't know. And so they can't teach their sons what all the games are. She actually sat up and said this over a year ago. I remember that. So I'm going to tell you, sir, that you need to listen to the confessions of some of these ladies, if anything, instead of trying to point a finger at men and take all accountability away from women like we men are the leaders. We're not the leaders, sir. We're supposed to be naturally, but we're not in this actual reality. And if we're not, then we're not accountable. Fuck the shuck up. Don't say anything about men being accountable anymore until we're actually in control. And we're not in control, largely because they're the ones with all the game. They monopolized game, and it got you and me arguing over how much we should have and what its definition even is. You've been gamed, sir. That was why you recorded that. I'm going to tell you straight. If these women are not in your comment sections trying to get at you, if these women are not simping to get a shot at you in your comment sections because of this, then why do it? And it's not just about getting them, but I mean, the fact is, you're not going to win with men doing this. You're not, if you're a father of a son, it ain't going to help your son either. It's always about getting them. No. They strong and they independent. It's time for them to start making some moves to get these dudes. You respect them for being strong and independent? Well, then go ahead and hold them to that. There's no male accountability, as I've said, except for being too easy. We've done nothing else wrong. Everything else wrong that we have done relates back to that. It falls under the umbrella of us being too easy. And you just sat up and did it again. To the audience, thank you for listening. Black heart, black mind, blackout. Assalamu alaikum. And again, he has shown why I continuously say black heterosexual non-select male power and black patriarchy until extinction or judgment day, because ain't no reason to accept accountability till we get it.